hi everybody. Peter Greenberg here on the 24th of June, 2021. I usually tell you right away where I am, but I'll go back on that because for those of you who watched me on Facebook on our post earlier in the week, I gave you a little bit of a quiz as to try to guess where I am. And these are the clues I gave you. That I'm in a place where a woman is the president, and that the name of the place suggests that Bob Hope and Bing Crosby did a movie with that title, which they never did but should have. And most of you guessed incorrectly. In fact, overwhelmingly incorrectly. Most of you said I was in New Zealand or Australia. Some thought I was on the Amalfi Coast. None of the above, couldn't even be further away. The place I was in the photo was shot yesterday, and that was Zanzibar. That's where I was yesterday. Of course, the reference to Bing Crosby and Bob Hope was, the road to Zanzibar. They never went, at least on the movie part of the deal. Today, I'm speaking to you from the lobby of the Hyatt Regency in Dar es Salaam in Tanzania. And if you hear noise behind me, that's what that is. But of course, welcome to the Facebook Global Live Travel Update for this Thursday, the 24th. If you've got questions, please send them in. I'll scroll down and get to as many as I can. But let's start with the news. By the way, for those of you who are wondering why I'm in Tanzania, I'm here working on one of my shows for PBS, which I can't tell you what it is yet. Obviously, it's a secret, but that's why I'm here and happy to be with you. Now, let's get to the news. A lot of things going on. First and foremost, there is movement about unruly passengers. Airlines have asked the U.S. Department of Justice to now impose federal criminal penalties for unruly passengers, as the number of those cases exceeds about 3,300 in just the last couple of months. Now, most of them are about refusing to wear masks, and hopefully that mask mandate will go away in September. But for the moment, you are breaking the rules if you take off your mask or refuse to wear one, number one. Number two, no criminal penalties may be enough in terms of the underlying causes for this. It's called alcohol. In so many of these cases, alcohol is involved. And unless the airlines and the airports want to treat the airline travel experience as the fourth quarter of an NFL game and stop selling alcohol, it's going to be a problem. As you know, Southwest and American have stopped selling alcohol on the flights. Other airlines are considering removing it entirely. We shall see what happens. That's number one. Number two, last week I reported that the DOT took an enforcement action and proposed a whopping $25.5 million fine against Air Canada for refusing to give passengers refunds on flights that Air Canada canceled. Well, here's an update. The fine has not been assessed. It's only a proposed fine. Air Canada says they're going to fight it. But in the meantime, Air Canada is doing the right thing. Finally, they're giving out refunds even to people who canceled the flights when Air Canada didn't. So if you're sitting there either holding a credit from Air Canada or a credit voucher and you haven't heard from the airline, now's your time to call them. Remind them of what I just told you, that they are issuing refund checks for the flights that were canceled during the pandemic, whether the airline canceled them or you canceled them. All right. Speaking of airlines and fares, there is a huge airline fare disconnect going on right now. It's counterintuitive, but worth mentioning. Here it is. Remember I told you many months ago, back in March, when my airfare from Los Angeles to New York was $92 nonstop? That's now soared to more than $650 and getting stronger in terms of the actual pain that you're going to ensue buying those airline tickets. Well, same thing with rental cars, right? The cost of a rental car now is more than the cost of a hotel room. But the summer has some surprises, and the surprises are not in the United States. Normally, there are no surprises in the summer when it comes to going to Europe. It's too expensive. That's their high season. Not this year yet. Right now, especially if you're flying business class, nobody's flying first, so let's just stay in business. The bargains are better than they are in the US for domestic flights. For example, a business class seat to the Caribbean is going to run you $2,500. A lie flat business class seat to Rome and Paris, $1,500. Same thing with hotel fares. So what's happening? A growing number of Americans are canceling their domestic summer plans and heading over to Europe. They're ditching the California coast for the Amalfi Coast. And that's going to continue through the rest of the summer as Europe begins to open up. Because while they're opening up, they're not opening up rapidly. They're opening up slowly, but they are opening up. And you don't necessarily have to be vaccinated. In many countries now in the European Union, you just have to basically come in with a negative COVID test. You don't have to quarantine. Bingo, you're there. All right, so we'll have an update for that on our website, petergreenberg.com, as that information changes rapidly as these countries are opening up. The UK, still no announcement from them on their traffic light system. The red, yellow, green. We're not in the green. However, there's every reason to still believe that on July 19th, Boris Johnson is going to announce they're going to relax the rules for vaccinated Americans and allow us to go to the United Kingdom without quarantine. Once that happens, you can expect the Biden administration to reciprocate and allow vaccinated Europeans to come to the US. And you'll also see Canada basically fold up their tent and open up their borders. Again, we have now morphed from a public health issue to a economic issue. No country wants to be left alone without a summer of revenue, but more importantly, the metrics have changed. We've gone from worrying about the vaccination level of where we're going to the vaccination level of the people who are going. For example, I'm in Tanzania, one of 54 countries in Africa, where the vaccination percentage as a percentage of the population is a pathetic 6%. It's terrible, but it didn't stop me from coming. I'm vaccinated. And talk about an opportunity for everybody else. What a great time to go on safari. You're outside, you're already socially distanced. You're certainly going to be 6 feet away from animals. But the bottom line is, it's a great time to go. Be responsible, wear masks where needed, but you can come in now as long as you show a negative COVID-19 test. And remember, the US rules on return have not changed. I just got tested today because I'm flying back to the US, and I have to do that within 72 hours of my return. Came back negative, I'm leaving. But the bottom line is a great time to come to a place that needs travelers and tourism. Look, the GDP that travel represents in countries like Tanzania is 18%. Do you realize how huge that is? On an international average, the travel and tourism is about 11%. So 18% is tipping the scales, but it gives you an idea of how much this country economically depends on travel and tourism. So just sharing that with you as well. Now, let's come over to a couple of other things. Number one, about the cruise industry. Tomorrow, actually Saturday, on the 26th, the Celebrity Edge, captained by my old pal, Captain Kate, is going to sail from Florida on a revenue cruise. It'll be heavily covered by the media. And of course, it's right in the thick of the storm between the governor of Florida and the cruise lines about proof of vaccination. You know, there's a law in Florida now signed by the governor that will fine companies like Celebrity $5,000 per incident anytime they're forcing someone to prove that they've been vaccinated in order to do business with them. That includes cruise lines. So what is Celebrity doing in the meantime? They're offering a deal. And the deal is vaccination optional. You can go on the cruise even if you're not vaccinated, but if you can't show proof of vaccination, you have other things you got to do, like wear a mask all the time and get tested more frequently on the ship. This honor system is, in my opinion, crap. It's not going to work. It's going to pit passengers against other passengers. It's going to once again politicize the mask issue. But the good news is the cruise line is going to sail the ship. Let's see what happens. Let's see how people behave. Oh, would there be alcohol involved? Oh, here we go again. But bottom line is that's a short-term sort of a fix to allow the ship to sail. It is not a long-term fix, and we're going to have to see what happens. Bottom line is they're sailing. And within the next 3 weeks, you're going to see ships sailing from San Diego to Alaska, from Seattle to Alaska. They're already selling out. That's happening. Las Vegas has reopened in a very big way. The casinos are open, the hotels are open, the showrooms are open. And here's the wildest thing. The airlift to Las Vegas right now is over 15% above what it was in 2019. Everybody's flying to Vegas. And they're doing more and more nonstop flights for cities that don't have to hub through Atlanta, Chicago, or Dallas. So the airlift is not going to be a problem in Las Vegas. They're still missing a lot of international traffic, but domestically, it's open for business and the shows are coming back. All right, let's go to some of your questions here. I'm going to scroll back up to the top. John Valdastri says, good afternoon, Peter. John, my good friend from United at Newark. Evelyn says, good morning from Denver. Robin DeCarlo, good morning from Williamsburg. All right. Ann Weiner, hello from Utah on National Park Tour. You are so right about the parks being super full. They are. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit when we discuss that, because there are alternatives you need to know about. There will be some national parks this summer that are going to close entirely. They literally cannot handle the load. Now, there are more than 394 national parks and monuments in the United States, and they don't all have to be Yosemite and Yellowstone, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. Carmen says hello from Tampa. Florence, Arizona. What's the temperature there today, Sharon? Elizabeth says hello from good old Brooklyn. All right. Here's one from DL Swanson. We have a tour scheduled for September for South Africa, Botswana, and Zambia. Travel advisory at this time is level 3. Stop the travel level advisory crap. Guys, I've said it before, I'll say it again. It's meaningless. Shall I repeat what it is? We used to have travel advisories that were not uniformly applied. They were unfair to begin with, and they instilled a great amount of fear. In fact, anytime anybody ever heard the words travel advisory or State Department advisory, they just didn't go. They got scared. So in the Trump administration, the State Department said, you know what, let's change the system and give a State Department travel advisory for every destination. And they did it on 4 levels. Level 1 was travel with normal caution. I still have no idea what that means. Level 2, travel with increased caution. You know what that means. You're already digging a bunker in the backyard. Level 3, which is what DL Swanson is talking about, is reconsider travel. You've already said you're not going to go by level 2. And level 4 says do not travel, which is what the State Department did a few months ago, covering 80% of the globe. It was unfair and it was ridiculous. So a level 3 doesn't mean anything, right? There are 54 countries in Africa. I'll make you a bet Tanzania is on the list. I'm here. I'm not glowing in the dark. I'm not frothing at the mouth, and I don't fear for my safety. Be responsible, practice common sense. And if I were you, I'd go online and get the travel advisories for the British Foreign Office to their citizens. I actually happen to think they do a better job. I know the State Department hates me every time I say it. I don't work for the State Department. I'm telling you my experience as a journalist. They do a better job. And then it allows you to make a more intelligent decision about the travel choices you make. So here's one for you, DL. If you have the tour scheduled for South Africa, Botswana, and Zambia for September, as long as you've been vaccinated, as long as you don't have any pre-existing conditions that we don't know about, as long as you're physically able to do it, and as long as you can behave responsibly when you're there, I'd go. Now, I'm not a doctor. I don't play one on TV. Consult your own physician, but that's my travel advice. Gina says, hello from San Diego. Hello, Gina. Okay. Bernie says hello from New York. Tommy says hi. Here's one from Matthew. Any updates on the U.S. lifting restrictions on European entering the United States? Yeah, just to answer that one, Matthew. Look for July 19th in that vicinity. For first, it's going to have to be Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister in the UK, to announce that we are now in the green light system. That whole light system stinks, but that's the way they're going to go. Once that happens, it's obvious we're going to reciprocate because we want the revenue here in the United States, or there, since I'm in Tanzania, as much as they want it there. So look for July 19th. That doesn't mean it's going to happen July 19th. I think the announcement will happen July 19th. Here's from Tommy, leaving for Provence in 1 week. Do I expect France to follow Italy in not requiring testing for fully vaxxed? Yes, I think they will. Now, will it happen before you leave? Probably not, but they will follow it. Laurel says lots of background noise today. That's right, Laurel. You know where I am? I'm in the lobby of the Hyatt Regency in Dar es Salaam, and I wanted to have a nice background picture. See? Zebras. So that's the trade-off. You get zebras and a little noise, or me in a small room with no background and quiet. I can live with that. I hope you can too. Okay, Mary Williams says, where did you get tested in Tanzania pre-flight home? I just got tested about 2 hours ago at a hospital here in Dar es Salaam. They did the test literally in 10 minutes, and I'll have my results tonight, and I leave tomorrow. Are they charging the $11 fee when you leave Mexico? I'm hearing mixed reviews saying they're not required or nobody's asking for them. You raise an interesting point. What Joy is asking about is about 2 months ago, Cancun, for example, announced that to raise additional revenue, they're going to charge an $11 departure tax for everybody leaving. My guess is they thought better of it, and or they buried it in the cost of the ticket. Someone's paying that. So we'll check on that for you because I've been getting mixed reviews as well. But we'll get you an answer by next week. My assistant is watching this right now, and we'll get on that. Okay, here's from Carmen. Traveling on a river cruise in August from Basel to Amsterdam. Any suggestions for best transfers from Zurich Airport to Lucerne? Yeah, take the train. You got to love the train. And I do it all the time. In fact, the train station at Zurich Airport is at the Zurich Airport. I mean, literally, you walk out of baggage claim, go about 600 feet, and you're on a very efficient train. Okay, let me scroll up again. We've got some more here. Hold on. Give me a second here. I lost a few people here, and I don't want to lose you guys. Okay, here we go. Carol says she agrees about the honor system not working because people lie. I agree totally. Sharon, now that we can fly into Italy with proof of vaccine, do we still have to be tested for COVID upon return to the U.S.? Yes, you do. That is not going away for the time being, right? Just like I had to be tested today. Ben says, good morning. Colleen says, I'm watching from San Francisco, where I used to live, by the way. Robin says, how can I find a phone number to a car rental company? I called the number shown, but it's a service center for the car rental company, looking for the phone for Thrifty Car Rental in Honolulu, the desk in Honolulu, not some call center. Here's a very simple answer, right? And nobody ever thinks about this. When was the last time you called a hotel concierge? When you weren't staying at the hotel. They are the best resources of information. It's not just about getting theater tickets. So if you want to get a car rental number for where you're going, right? You say Honolulu, call one of the hotels in Honolulu and ask to speak to the concierge. I guarantee you they've got the number, and you can thank them in person when you get there, okay? They are great. Good day from PA, says Gail. Do I know how long the government is taking to process global entry applications? Well, the good news is there's a two-level thing to the global entry applications. It's the application itself, and then there's the interview. So the application you do online, what you're really asking about is the interview. It's starting to get back into shape now. People are coming back to those airport locations to do those interviews at international gateway airports in the US. So we'll have an answer for you that next week, but it is getting better. However, the passport situation has only gotten worse. Remember, all the guys who work at passport offices have been working remotely. No one can process a passport remotely. So the actual time that it takes when you apply for a passport or to get a renewal, even if you want expedited service, is taking up to 6 weeks. That's for expedited service. Let's get out the calendar. We're already in August now. You're gonna lose the summer. And if you do it regular, 4 to 5 months. Let's not forget, I told you guys this 6 months ago to apply then. So if you didn't listen to me, you're paying the price right now. And they're not letting you do appointments in many cases. I know friends of mine in California who literally flew across the country. They needed a passport to a passport office in Vermont, which didn't have a long line, and they did a walk-in and got it there. I mean, that's an unusual situation, but that's the extent to which some people are going to get their passports now. Okay. Peter says, good morning, good evening, and welcome from my friend Peter in Rwanda. Not too far away, not too far away. Hello from the Gateway of St. Louis. Hello, Joan Corliss. Lindy says, I booked a great deal with miles and extra money for Economy Plus and United a year ago. It's for Paris in September. If I try to push it to May, will it cost me a lot more? To push it to next May? Maybe, maybe not. Look, the airlines have gotten rid of their mileage charts, which used to give you a good comparison figure to look at. So you're like flying blind here. What I would do right now, this is the time to pick up the phone and talk to United. Do not try to do this online. Have a conversation and they'll give you the answer, okay? Joseph Mwangi says, good evening, Peter. So glad to see that you're reporting from our East African neighbor, Tanzania. You're a most welcome. Karibu sana, okay. And of course, Hakuna Matata. Welcome to Nairobi. Yes, I miss Nairobi. And in fact, Joseph, I'll tell you something. On my door in New York, I have a sign that I had made by the sign makers in the old Central Market in Nairobi. It's a big wooden sign with white etching. It's basically carved into the sign, and you'll know what it says in Swahili, Mwabakali, Mwabakali. You know what it means? Beware of the dog. And nobody knows what it means, but now we all do, and I love having that sign. Gene says, I would love to visit Norway once it opens up. Any recommendations for tour groups? That's a too general a question, Gene, so try one more on me with a little bit more detail, okay? Joy Downs, when's the best time for best prices to buy airline tickets or flights next year? I want to go to Greece in April of 2022. The answer to that question is not this year. You want to do 54 to 78 days out, and since it's in April of next year, it's not going to be high season. You're going to be doing fine. I would look anytime after about January 10th or 15th, when everybody's freezing and nobody's thinking about going anywhere, and look online for those prices then. If you look online for those prices now, you can do it if you want to comparison shop, but generally speaking, the algorithms are not set up to really project demand and to understand how to price those tickets. So they usually tend to be higher at this point, okay? John Gottport Anderson, my old friend, it's close to midnight here in Vietnam. I'm still on the lookout for any opportunity to get a COVID vaccination here. The vaccines are not yet widely available, and we still have 2 to 3 week quarantines for those entering the country from overseas. My guess is, honestly, go to one of the 4-star, 5-star hotels there and talk to the concierges, because they get that question about every 20 minutes from their own frequent guests, and they'll know, okay? You may have to go the private hospital route. The vaccines are there. It'll cost you, but you'll get it. Okay, here's one from Roseanne Maffeo from Fraumany. There's a name I will not say 3 times fast. Apologies. Hi from Lake Worth, Florida. Ready to board the Edge on Saturday. I have to tell you, Celebrities keeping passengers very informed on protocols in place. Looking forward to letting you all know how it is. Rose, please let us know how it goes. And when you're on that ship, look for my old pal, Captain Kate. She is already a legend, an amazing captain with an amazing story to tell. And remember, right before the pandemic, Captain Kate was in command of the Edge as it sailed back into Florida with the first all-woman officer complement in cruise ship history, right? Every single officer on that ship was female, highly trained, highly competent, and as is Captain Kate. So enjoy your cruise. Let me know what happens. Greg says hello from Salt Lake City. Oh, Gina. Okay. Thank you, Gina. You agree with me about the UK travel advisories. Check it out. Okay. And D.L. Swanson is going to go to South Africa based on my advice. Please don't hold it against me if something goes wrong, but I'm telling you, the odds are firmly in your favor based on what you told me. Okay, here's one. Kathy says, I'm scheduled with my family to travel to Tanzania and Zanzibar at Christmas time. One question I called regarding travel vaccinations, and they told me I have to get the yellow fever because I'm traveling through Nairobi about a month before travel. I'd rather get it sooner. You think that's correct? I do not know the answer to that, but I'm so glad you're coming. You are going to fall madly in love with Zanzibar. I guarantee you will. And as you go into Stone Town, and you can't avoid Stone Town in Zanzibar, you want to go see it, check out the doorways. Check out the doors. Check out the old wooden doors. And in fact, you can even Google it, and you'll come up with Zanzibar doors. I have no idea what shipping costs, but I'm bound and determined I'm going back there to buy doors. And you'll see why when you get to Zanzibar. We'll get you an answer about vaccinations and yellow fever shots next week, so stay tuned on that, Kathy. Colleen says, I'm flying from San Francisco to Frankfurt next month and then a train down to Paris. Is there any problem crossing EU borders now? Right now, no. And I'm glad you love the zebra background. Okay. This is from Matthew Tasker. I live in France, and they've recently added the U.S. to their green list, meaning that if you're fully vaccinated and there's no PCR test or quarantine required to enter. However, how many of you want to go to France and then go on to other countries in Europe? Protect yourself, find out all the regulations of the other countries so you can be prepared before you ever leave home in the first place. All right, let me go back up here. We've got more, guys. Stay with me. I'm just going to scroll back up. This thing tends to scroll crazily on me. Okay. Kay says, hi there, Peter. New to this, and I'm liking it. We have AA tickets nonstop from ORD to LAX second week in July. Worried, will they cancel us? What say you? Well, let's talk about that. You know, all the airlines came back with a vengeance when travel came back with a vengeance. The only problem was the airlines came back not really realizing how many of us are going to travel. And as a result, American ran out of pilots. Now, they didn't run out of pilots. They ran out of trained pilots who need to go through recurrent training to qualify to get back in the cockpit. That requires them to spend 2 days in the classroom and 3 days in the simulator per pilot. So multiply that by the number of pilots who need to do that, by the number of flights that get affected, and now you understand why American canceled over 450 flights last weekend, and those cancellations will continue, albeit at a slower rate this week and next week. And the reason why they'll continue at a slower rate is that American is now basically eliminating about 70 flights from their schedule every day to try to stabilize the situation. It's unfortunate. They didn't plan on it correctly. And another thing they didn't do correctly, and this applies to both American and Delta, they furloughed a lot of people on their ground support staff, the counter agents, the gate agents. And when travelers came back with a vengeance, there weren't enough. So Americans asking some of their non-union management people to volunteer at gates and jetways. Same thing with Delta. One thing that I've heard a story about, I haven't confirmed it yet, is that American is now saying that their new policy, at least internally for their employees, is they're only going to have one person at each jetway checking passengers in and when boarding the flight. That is going to be a disaster, and it's going to delay a lot of flights. So let's see what happens. I'll find out if that rumor is true. I wouldn't be surprised, but we will check it out first. Maridel, my friend in Oregon, heat wave in Oregon. Heat wave a lot of places, Maridel. Rochelle wants to know, did I fly in that cushy new Dreamliner from Amsterdam to Dar es Salaam? I did not. You're referring to KLM. I came in another route. I flew New York to Doha on Qatar, great airline and great cushy seats. And then, by the way, that's a good example of the airfare disconnect I was telling you guys about, that the business class fares in many cases are cheaper than coach fares in the US. And then I connected in Doha with a stop in Zanzibar and then on to Dar es Salaam. Hey from Denver from my pal Rob New, who I hope I see soon. And of course, Rob's daughter, Lauren, who whenever I'm in Denver, she's my assistant on the radio show. So we love you, Lauren. Come see us soon. I'll come see you soon. Okay. Joy Daniels trying to figure out what is the best travel insurance to purchase if you don't book it from a travel agent. Why wouldn't you book it from a travel agent? The whole point of booking a travel insurance through a travel agent is you can have a conversation and somebody can walk you through the hieroglyphics of the policy language so you understand what you're covered for, but most importantly, what you're not covered for. That's the bottom line. If you can give me a good argument for not buying it through a travel agent, let me know. It's not going to cost you any more, and at least you know what you're getting. Going online is suicidal when it comes to this because there are no full disclosures on that page that you're going to opt in or opt out of the insurance for to let you know the stuff you really need to know. Don't do it. Check out a travel agent, have that conversation, and then you'll find out. Okay, let's keep going here. My buddy Kim Luck in DC. Thoughts on Portugal and Morocco for Thanksgiving? You go for it. Absolutely, but go for it now, right? Now's the time to think about it. But remember, you're almost in that 54 to 70 day out period. Wait about 2 to 3 weeks and then strike, okay? Julie says, I applied to renew my global entry and was told to do an interview upon entry for my next international trip. Any idea how long that takes? Hard to juggle if you have a connecting flight. You're not going to do that interview if you have a connecting flight unless you have at least a 4-hour layover, okay? So plan a 4-hour layover and then do the interview. The interview should take no longer than 30 minutes, unless in my case, because remember, if you filled out that application, you know what I'm about to tell you. They want you to list every single foreign destination you've ever been to in your life. I'm not exaggerating. In your life. I needed extra pages. So the interview with them, when I did it at the airport, took a little longer because they couldn't believe how many I listed, and they wanted to ask me about places like North Korea and Cuba and Lebanon, because I've been there. So we figured it out, but my interview took a little longer. But on average, count on about 30 minutes. But remember, don't give yourself a 2 or 3 hour layover. Give yourself a 4 or 5 hour layover just in case there's a line for the interviews at Global Entry. Hello from Lakeland, Florida. Michelle says, I traveled almost 4 hours each way to fix Global Entry. My point exactly. Tim says, hello from near Seattle. Thank you for being so general. Tim, you'll have to tell us where you are. Joy says, when will you know if your flight is canceled since AA is now canceling a lot of flights? Well, you're not going to go for their electronic alerts. I find them useless. Most of the time when my phone gives me an electronic alert, I already know I'm in trouble. So all it does is confirm what I already know. No, what you're going to do is you're going to call the airline and you're going to call them at 2 a.m, not 5 p.m, and not at 8 o'clock in the morning. Call them at 2 a.m. and have that conversation. They'll have a pretty good idea. And the other thing you always ask to do, and most of you don't do this. I do this all the time. Let's say you're on a flight that leaves at noon. We'll make up a number. It's flight 407. Okay, it's going from, let's say, Los Angeles to Chicago. Most of you will call up the airline and say, hey, I'm on flight 407 from Los Angeles to Chicago. Is it on time? And the answer that they will tell you is yes, and that's a lie, usually, right? Because what they're really telling you is it's scheduled to leave on time. Slight difference in the definition there, right? So you have to ask a second question. I'll walk you through it. Hey, I'm on flight 407 from Los Angeles to Chicago. Can you tell me the tail number of the aircraft assigned to flight 407? They have that information on their screen. You don't, but they do. And they'll say, oh, that's tail number 181. Great. Can you tell me where tail number 181 is right now? Oh, it's in Belize? I guess I'm not going to Chicago. And now that you've established that at 2 o'clock in the morning, you can have your next conversation with them to get you rebooked immediately so that you don't get sold out of another flight, which may already be full. All right? You don't want to get all the way to the airport to get disappointed or wait for that really late electronic alert giving you bad news. Find out the tail number, especially if you're not leaving from a hub city where they're based, right? So if you're in Dallas and you're an American, you have a better chance they might be able to roll out another plane. But if you're in Sheboygan, Wisconsin, that flight is your flight and your flight alone. If it's not coming in, you're not going out. All right? You know what to do now? Do it. All right. Johnny Nayar says, I hope I pronounced that correctly, Johnny, are the U.S. consulates abroad open to process tourist visas yet? Thank you for your answers and the useful information you give us. In most cases, the answer is they are not. But we'll get you an answer specifically. If you want to give me a specific location, we'll get you that next week. Okay, let's go to Matthew. Here's one from Matthew. Here's a fun tip for folks visiting Europe this summer. Singapore Airlines is launching a new Fifth Freedom flight from Copenhagen to Rome on their A350 if you fancy a flatbed within Europe. How many of you know what a Fifth Freedom flight is? It's the great secret flight. I love Fifth Freedom flights, right? For years, if I wanted to go from Los Angeles to Tokyo, what airline would I take? Well, you could take Japan Airlines. You could take United. In those days, you could take Pan Am. You could, right? Or even American. I took Varig, the Brazilian airline. If I wanted to go from Los Angeles to Sao Paulo, the Fifth Freedom flight used to be Korean Airlines, right? The flight started in Seoul, stopped in LA, and went down to Sao Paulo. My favorite one is I was in Sao Paulo. I needed to go to Buenos Aires. What airline did I choose? Now, I could have done Aerolíneas Argentinas or TAM, or in some cases, even an American shuttle flight. I did something even cooler, and nobody will ever guess this. I flew Turkish Airlines between Sao Paulo and Buenos Aires because the Turkish airline flight starts in Istanbul, lands in Sao Paulo, shuttles down to BA, and goes back. It's a brand new 777. A business class seat with lie flat beds was $100. Fifth Freedom flights, you may not find them on your computer. You have to do a little more homework because not every flight is displayed on those systems. But if you look hard enough, you'll find them, like the Singapore Airlines flight between Copenhagen and Rome on an amazing aircraft, the A350. Thank you for sharing that, Matthew. Much appreciated. Hello to Mary Branch. Let me go back up here. We've got more people here I got to get to. Hey, while I'm doing this, while I'm scrolling, I have to share with you a very funny video. We're going to cue it up in a second, but I got to introduce it first. We've talked about disruptive passengers, and most of the time we talk about disruptive passengers, we're talking about people who get physically in people's faces and cause fights and get thrown off planes and punch people out. We know that. I'm going to show you a photograph here. Not a photograph, it's actually a video of a disruptive passenger of another kind. Look at it carefully. Let's run the video. It's on a regularly scheduled flight. Do you see what's sitting on the passenger's lap? It's a completely full Singer sewing machine. This person's making drapes on the flight. Look at this. And nobody else cares. You see anybody looking at this person? Like, this is just what happens on a flight? We're sewing? I mean, come on. All right. I just had to share that with you. That's my disruptive passenger photo of the week. I thank my friend Gary Leff for sending it in. Gary, in fact, will be on my radio show either this Saturday or next Saturday. Gary does a column every week, actually every day, called viewfromthewing.com. He found this story hysterical. He gets all the credit, but I had to share that video. I mean, stranger things have happened, but I've never seen anybody. I've seen people knitting on a plane. We've seen that, right? Sewing with a machine? Oh my God. And what's the noise like? Anyway, that was my photo there. Now, let's go to some more questions. I'm sorry I interrupted, but I had to show you that. Peter Coe says from beautiful Madison, Wisconsin. Couldn't agree more. Okay. Aloha, will Canadians be able to enter the U.S. within 2 weeks after second shot by air? When they open the borders. Right now, difficult to do. Okay. Oh, Kathy said, I love the doors in Morocco too. Yes, and they actually look about the same, right? There's a very interesting influence here. So take a look at that. Katrina Lumley says hello from Alabama. Okay. Oh, Tommy Harpster says, thank you, Matthew Tasker. You're making my day. See, we have a tip from Matthew. Thank you. Patrick Cooney says hi. Wow, here's one from Fernando Gobeo who says, I'm watching you from the University of Sankore in Timbuktu. What country is that in, everybody? Mali. Catherine Edwards Barnes says, Carmen Pellegrino, beautiful Rhine, enjoy your river cruise. Okay. Lindy says, Charles de Gaulle versus Orly to Paris. From where? Help me out, Lindy, and I'll help you out. Evelyn says, I'd love to see you in Denver. Well, you will see me in Denver. We're doing a story later this summer on the launch of a new train service, the Rocky Mountaineer. Many of you know it from the Canadian routes that they do between Banff and Vancouver. We are now watching them as they launch a U.S. service between Denver and Moab, Utah, and we'll actually be covering that story in late August. So you'll see me in Denver. All right. Evelyn Halborn confirms that American Airlines is working with only one agent at the gate and making it mandatory overtime in all departments. Yowza. Oh, boy. Okay. Carmen says, thank you for reminding folks that us travel advisors speak hieroglyphics. Listen, you don't have to speak it, but if you can interpret it, I'm with you. Okay. Here we go. My global entry interview took 10 minutes. There you go. All right. Thank you for that, Ellen. Tim has now revealed he's from Linwood in Washington, north of Seattle. Thank you for revealing that, Tim. Evelyn Helborn says, FlightAware is amazing. I use FlightAware. I also use Flight Radar 24 when I'm really bored, just to see what's up in the air. If you took a look at Flight Radar 24 6 months ago, you might find one lonely pilot up in the air. You look at Flight Radar 24 now, I mean, the map is just cluttered with airplanes in the sky. It's amazing stuff. Okay. Hey, here's one from Rochelle. I appreciate the news, Rochelle. The CPB is now introducing a remote interview pilot for trusted traveler programs. That includes global entry, renewals only, though. So to schedule a remote interview, log onto their TPP dashboard, and that's Trusted Traveler Program, and select scheduling your remote interview. That's very helpful to know. Thank you, Rochelle. Okay, let me go back up here. I got so many more to go through here. Debbie Schmall says hello from Boynton Beach. Okay, NCL just canceled their Western Europe cruises through January. We may see some more of that, by the way. Let's see. I'm looking here. Sid says, you're basically needling this guy about his sewing habit? No, but what I want to know is, how did he get the machine on the plane? How did he get it on his lap? What's he plugged it into, right? And I'm just amazed that everybody's just sitting on the plane around him going, okay. Mia says, where do you find those freedom flights? Never heard of it before. I'm going to tell you. Now, of course, I'm a diehard guy when it comes to this, but I still subscribe to something called, and the travel agents will know what I'm talking about, the OAG. Next week, I'll pick one up and show it to you. I've got it up in the hotel room here. The OAG stands for the Official Airline Guide. They publish 3 volumes a month, one for the Americas, one for Europe, Africa, and Middle East, and one for Asia and the Pacific. I subscribe to all 3. It's like the telephone directory of every single published airline flight in the world. It's not biased. It's everything. That's how I find them. You look at the city pairs, Los Angeles to Buenos Aires, boom, Los Angeles to Sao Paulo, had no idea. You look at the airline code, you find out what it is, and keep in mind, these are most likely positioning flights, right? They didn't start or end at each one of these locations. They're continuing on. So whatever passenger they get is incremental. They're going to another location to pick up more passengers to return. That's how it works. So get the OAG. You know what? It costs me about $600 a year to subscribe. On one flight alone, I'm getting that money back based on the savings you get, because on many of these Fifth Freedom flights, guess what? They don't care what they charge because they've got to move the plane anyway. I'll give you an example. You want to go from New York to Athens or New York to Milan this summer? Yes, you could fly Delta, you could fly United. In some cases, you could fly American, at least to Milan. You know who else flies the flight? Emirates. They're based in Dubai. What they do between New York and Athens, they're on their way to Dubai with a stop, and they're allowed to do that under Fifth Freedom. Take a look at the airfares that Emirates is charging now from New York to Athens. I mean, it's under $800. Then look what everybody else is charging, okay? Hello, Jan from Chicago. LAX, here's what I'm going to get that. I just lost you on the screen here. Oh, there you are, Lindy. LAX to Dulles to Charles de Gaulle versus Orly. Okay. Are you connecting in France onwards, Lindy, or is that your final terminal stop in Paris? All right. I mean, if I'm going to go from Dulles, and I can go from Dulles to Orly, if there's a flight that actually goes there nonstop, I take the Orly flight because de Gaulle is so cluttered. And if you have to change terminals, forget it. That can take you, an hour and a half. So you have to let me know. So if you're just going to go to Paris, then I go to Orly. And if you can go nonstop. If you are connecting flights, you may not have a choice because almost all the connecting flights that I know of consequence, go out of Charles de Gaulle. I will keep you posted on the Denver trip, Evelyn. What are the chances that Canada will be closed in August? Well, here's what Canada's been doing ever since the beginning of the year. Well, we're opening our borders on January 21st. And on January 17th, they announced they're keeping the borders till February 21st closed. And then around February 17th, it's March 21st. They just did it about a week and a half ago to what? July 21st. Canada's going to keep doing that until the UK opens. That's my prediction. I'm not going to be wrong on this. The minute the UK opens, Canada will not have a choice. Again, it's not about their pathetic level of vaccinations in Canada. They came very late to the game, and they don't have enough people vaccinated. It's about the number of people who are vaccinated who want to go to Canada. And that number is staggering now, right? We're not just talking about visiting friends and relatives. It's people who want to just go to Canada. It's either business travelers or friends and family. So bottom line, watch this calendar date of July 19th to see what the UK does. And that may help to answer your question about Canada. Tim Clemens wants to know, did I become a pilot? If not, why not? I'll tell you what I did become. I used my access as a journalist many, many years ago to thoroughly train as a captain, to thoroughly train in the cockpit, to thoroughly train in the cabin as a flight attendant. And so many, many years ago, dating back to 1985, I got cockpit and jump seat authority from the FAA. For those of you who watched our 2-hour documentary many years ago on American Airlines on NBC, CNBC to be precise, you may have noticed we shot it in the cockpit on a revenue flight, which normally the TSA and the DHS would never let us, not the TSA, the DHS would never let us do. But because I carried that authority, we were able to do that. By the way, I could never get it today. I got grandfathered in because I got it before 9/11. The reason why I never became a pilot is because at the time I wanted to do that, I lived in Southern California full time, and the airspace over Southern California is so crazy that I was nervous. I mean, do you know what the co-pilots do on most flights going into Burbank or LAX? They're not looking at the instruments. They're looking for other traffic out the window. Not what I think is an ideal flying environment, right? That corridor is crazy. Of course, the Northeast corridor between New York and Washington, equally crazy. So if I was living in New Zealand, I would be a pilot by now because I have all that real estate to train in. I was just a little worried about that. However, I did want to understand the process of it all so I could explain it to you. So I still train 6 times a year in the airline simulators, which is the best video game ever made, but you have to take it seriously. And when you walk out of an hour training session in one of those, you are sweating because they throw everything at the book at you to see how you can respond and fly the plane. Is it flyable? And in many cases it is, if you know what to do. In most cases, when you have a crash, the pilots did not recover well to fly the plane. It wasn't just it wasn't just an impossible situation. So that's why they continue to do recurring training, which I thoroughly support. I hope that answers your question. Linda Marie wants to hear about national parks. A lot of them may close. The Arches, Enchantment, Yellowstone and Yosemite getting full, Acadia. So we'll try to get you some information on that next week. It's changing by the hour. However, that reminds me, let's go to our photo of the week. And our photo of the week winner, let's get it up on the screen. The photo of the week winner is Pat Brown. Look at this stunning photograph. And where did she take it? Bryce Canyon National Park in Utah. You wait for the light and you get that. How beautiful is that picture? Congratulations, Pat. It was taken, by the way, at Queen's Garden on May 22nd. Now, Bryce Canyon is one of those parks that may get overcrowded this year. And so my suggestion is there are so many great state parks that are just as great. Check out our story. Go to our website with the imaginative name petergreenberg.com, and you'll see state parks that you might want to visit, including the Chiaja State Park in Alabama, Red Rock State Park in Arizona, State Forest Park in Colorado, and many, many more. And there's a state park right next to Yosemite, by the way, that I've had a great time at, and it's not overcrowded. And they have a lot of campsites available, at least a lot more right now than a lot of national parks, okay? Here we go. And Evelyn says, oh my God, the OAG? Yes, Evelyn, the OAG. And you want to know something? I keep it in my carry-on bag. I don't pack it. It's in my carry-on, because when I get to the airport and then you know what hits the fan, I whip out the OAG, and while everybody's standing online to get rebooked, I already know where I'm going to go. So trust me on that. Okay, any information on refunds from Alitalia? Yeah. Oh, you said the flight was booked through Expedia and canceled in June 2020. The problem here, and if anybody from one of the OTAs wants to argue this with me, you're welcome to come on anytime you want. The online travel agents have done a pathetic, did you hear me, pathetic job of getting people their money back, because they're all claiming they know nothing. Excuse me, you were the agency of record. You booked the ticket. The airline canceled the ticket. It's an airline that flies to and from the United States. They are under the rules of the U.S. Department of Transportation. You are entitled to a refund. So here's the good news. The recent enforcement action announced by the DOT against Air Canada, even though Air Canada is fighting the fine to try to get it mitigated, and even though Air Canada is now doing the right thing by giving everybody their money back, it does send a clear signal to airlines like Alitalia, which, if you need to know the truth, Alitalia means all land in Tokyo, all luggage in Athens. Sorry about that. It's a wake-up call for them if they want to continue to do business in the United States. So stay tuned. I think we're going to have some resolution in the next 45 days. Mia says, you spoke about an annual travel insurance once before, which you have. Which one? Okay, what I talked about was medical evacuation and repatriation insurance. There are a number of companies that I think do a very good job. Travel Guard is one. MedJet Assist is the other. I happen to have a policy with MedJet Assist. It's an annual premium. You can also get it for your significant other in a family plan or your kids. And I've had it for over 20 years. Here's some wood. I'll knock on it. I've never had to use it, but I'm sure glad I have it, because if you know what it covers, basically if you get sick or injured overseas, they will pay to get you medically stabilized at that location, and then in consultation with your own doctor. After all, who knows your medical history better than your own personal physician? They will then determine, with your consent and approval, where they're going to fly you to the doctor and medical facility of your choice. That's the policy you want. I know two of the companies that do that, MedJet Assist and Travel Guard. Now, there are some exclusions in there for age or pre-existing conditions, so read it carefully. Once again, any travel agent or advisor can talk you through that policy and then figure out which is best for you. Okay, I'm going to continue on here. I got to go scroll, find more so I don't miss anybody. From Jerry Gomez, any updates regarding the IATA Travel Pass app launch for all travelers? Also, do I know if the Pasadena Travel Immunization Clinic is still around? I don't know about Pasadena, Jerry. We can find that out for you. But as far as the IATA Travel Pass, they're testing it right now. That doesn't necessarily mean people are going to recognize it. Not every country will, not every state will. So we'll have more information about that. But they are issuing it on a test basis. Clara says, New York City, Frankfurt, Singapore Airlines nonstop. I have no idea what your question is, Clara, so get back to me on that. Lorraine. Okay, Lorraine, you're making me feel old. She said, I started working in the airlines in 1982. We only had an OAG to book flights with. Well, you know what? It's still around. You know, when in doubt, do you know what I have in my house in New York? And I use it. It's a rotary phone. It works. And if the power goes off on the house, it still works, right? When in doubt, manual, folks. And the OAG, but there is an online version of the OAG. You know what? I can open up that book faster and find flights faster than any of you can online. And you can too. So check it out. And Lorraine says it was then for Continental Airlines. Remember when they got in trouble? When they said, we'll move our tail for you? Those are the days when that wasn't really trouble, but you know. Okay. Sharon says, try calling this number. I'll share it with you, Sharon. This is for our Alitalia friend. 800-223-5730. That's 800-223-5730. Alitalia has refunded all canceled 2020 flights, so talk to somebody. That's what I tell my staff all the time. Don't go online. Talk to somebody. Human being. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you for that nice note, Evelyn. And Lindy says, merci beaucoup. Pat, awesome photo. That comes from Robin. It was an awesome photo, Pat Brown. Congratulations. And if you have a photo you want to submit to the photo of the week, you know how to do it. Go to our website, petergreenberg.com, and send it in. But also tell us where you took it, when you took it, and maybe the story behind it. We'd appreciate that. Hello from Chicago, from Lamar Mays. Some more congratulations from Pat, from Scott Cowan. Okay, let's see. I'm going here. Oh, from Valerie Beach Girl. Hello, Valerie Beach Girl. Any idea when Argentina will open to U.S. travelers? Have Antarctica booked for November? I think it's going to happen. I think it's going to happen because here's what's going to happen. If you're only using Argentina as a stop on the way to Antarctica, they can bypass that with Chile, and they will. So, but if you happen to go to Antarctica via Argentina, I promise you next week, I made this promise last week, and honestly, I forgot about it. I'll tell you next week. One of the best restaurants I've ever been to in my life, and one of the most surprising locations, is in Ushuaia. And next week, I'll give you that name of the restaurant. Oh, I know. I just remembered it. Kaupe. Kaupe. It's run by a husband and wife. Their son is the maitre d'. The mom and the dad are in the kitchen cooking. You owe it to yourself. Even if you have to get there a day early, go there for dinner. Kaupe. Kaupe. All right, Tim Smith says hello from the beautiful Black Hills of South Dakota, and tourism's coming back. All right, congratulations. Florine says, what about refunds on South Africa Airways, which is under restructuring? There's your problem. You may be part of the class that's called non-secured creditors, and if you're an unsecured creditor, you get wiped out in a bankruptcy. What you need to do is to find out if any other airline in South Africa is honoring original South African tickets. Sometimes they might do that. So don't throw the ticket away. Keep it handy. But your options right now are pretty slim. Okay. I'm going back up here. We have so many questions. I'm not going to be able to get to all of them today. Does Google Flights have all the flights on it? No. How about that? Tim Clemens says, have I watched all of the air crash documentaries? As a matter of fact, Tim, I produced many of them. Including the crash of American Airlines Flight 191, which I highly recommend because the lessons of that crash, which is the worst disaster in American history and U.S. history on U.S. soil, those lessons are still having to be learned today. So if you get a chance, take a look at that. We did that on the History Channel. Okay. Okay, now we have an answer on that $11 fee to leave Cancun. It is a tax, and you have to be paid at arrival, during your stay, or on departure. So one way or another, they're going to get the $11. I think it was the worst time tax in travel history, at least for 2021, at a time when you want people to come. Why would you tax them? Okay, before I forget, I've got people who wrote me this week. I want to get to some of their questions. So let me do that right now. Okay, Corrine says, what's the latest update on Switzerland? Well, here's the interesting thing. They're going to let you in if you're vaccinated. However, there's a little wrinkle to it. The wrinkle is they're only going to let you in if you can prove that your vaccination happened within the last 6 months. So, for example, I got vaccinated in February. If I want to go to Switzerland in August or September, I may be out of luck. Can you repeat after me? Booster. So we're figuring that out, but get ready for that. All right. With the increase in travelers, this is from Deb. With the increase in travelers but less TSA agents, how early do I now have to get to the airport? Well, which airport? It's different. Here's my suggestion. This is the time to think secondary and tertiary airports. Providence instead of Boston, Oakland instead of San Francisco, Milwaukee, a secret airport instead of Chicago. If you look at the parking lot at Mitchell Field in Milwaukee, 1/3 of the cars there have Illinois plates. What do they know that you don't know? Nothing, because now you know. And my favorite airport on the East Coast, Islip. What a sleeper airport. If you're heading south especially, or you're going to Baltimore, or you're going down to Tampa or Palm Beach, that's your airport. And the lines there are not long. So now you know about that. Okay, we answered the Canada question. And here's one from Erica. What do I think is the most traveled to destination of this summer? The answer is we don't know yet. If you're talking domestically or internationally. Because right now, when you have this great price disparity between domestic and international costs, a lot of people are canceling their domestic flights and heading overseas. So we'll find out within the next 30 days as we watch those booking trends. So a little bit of housekeeping before I say goodbye. Again, I'm here at the Hyatt Regency in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, and working on a special project that I'll tell you about in a couple of weeks. Radio show, of course, every Saturday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Time, CBS Eye on Travel. If you can't find it in your neighborhood, no problemo. Go right to our website, petergreenberg.com, and you'll be able to see the link to let you listen to it streaming online live. Again, thank you for all your questions. We'll keep them coming. I will see you next week. And here's the crazy part. If you think this is a surprise today, where am I flying tomorrow? I'll give you a hint. It's a 30-hour flight. A 30-hour flight. And not an easy one to take because it involves 3 flights. And assuming I land safely, we're going to change the date of our Facebook Live update next week. It's going to be Tuesday. Same time, of course, 12 o'clock Eastern time. So check your local listings, but it'll be 12 o'clock noon on the 29th of June. And I'll see you from that surprise location next week. And as we like to say, Hakuna Matata, and we'll talk to you next week. Bye, guys.